You are listening to the Lucha Central Podcast Network. And now, Lucha Central Weekly.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the Lucha Central Weekly Podcast. This is the podcast that lets you know all of the latest happening in the world of Lucha Libre. Each week our team discusses news and events from this past week as well as preview the week ahead, covering Mexico-based promotions and top independents along with luchador-related news from throughout the United States. The Lucha Central Weekly Podcast is part of the Lucha Central Podcast Network at luchacentral.com. This podcast and others from the network are also available on all major podcast streaming platforms like iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Speaker, Podbay, and more. My name is Miranda Morales, and I'm one of the co-hosts of the Lucha Central Weekly Podcast. And let's bring in the rest of the team. Now, this week, we are doing things a little bit differently. This is normally the part of the show where I'd be introducing the dashing one, Mr. Dusty Murphy. However, I'm going to be jumping ahead to who? Who is it? Well, it's the one and only Brendan Barr.
Hey, what's up?
Yes, Brendan, how's it going?
Well, good as can be. We've got, good luck to Dusty. I know he's going to be listening in, so just get it out of the way right now. We miss you already, buddy, but, we told you, take care of yourself, so.
Yes, Dusty is out sick today. He is not going to be joining us on this week's episode of the podcast, so we are wishing Dusty Murphy a quick recovery. We hope to have him back soon. Brendan Barr and I, we're going to be guiding the ship for this week's episode. So make sure just hold on tight. We still got a lot of news to cover from the holiday break and more. We did have our episode drop a little bit later last week than we intended, but we got you back, and that's just the way things go in the holiday season. Schedules get busy, things happen, and so we were a little delayed, but we are back because, we got a lot of news to cover as we go into, the first week of December. I can't believe we're here.
Whew. This year went by a lot faster than last year.
Yes, this year went by a lot faster. I guess thank the Lord about that, because last year felt like an eternity plus, and this year has just flown by so fast. We're here in the very first week of December. Soon enough, it's going to be the end of the year, and we are going to be doing our end of year awards, second annual. So stay tuned for more information on that. We will be recording that and getting that posted a little bit later on this month. But until then, we're going to hit you with the news that's happening right now. Brendan, let's go ahead and kick it off with the road back to shows.
So I have classically been updating us on the status of Mexico and Mexico City as far as their COVID stuff. The past few weeks they haven't really been updating, so we're just going to move right into the rest of the news. Mexico City is doing what Mexico City is doing. I wanted to start off with our big one. We had Expo Lucha kind of came roaring back with Black Friday and Cyber Monday, making some talent announcements, putting some deals online. Unfortunately, for those of you who are listening to this, if you wanted to take advantage of those deals, they already expired, but there are plenty of Expo Lucha tickets still available, and there will definitely be more deals coming up because we have all the way until 2022. So I'm sure there will be some more times where there will be deals available for you. But they did give us some exciting news. They did remind us the already announced main event for night one is going to be Dragon Lee and Laredo Kid. So, I mean, right there, you've got a match worth the price of admission there alone. They announced that Lady Maravilla is going to be making her Expo Lucha debut, which is pretty great. Like, they usually have some really solid women's division matches, and to have Lady Maravilla as one of the talents is fantastic. Of course, this year it's the rescheduled Philadelphia Expo, which was originally meant to be on the anniversary of luchador talent arriving at the ECW arena. Obviously, COVID made that impossible, but they're still honoring that. It's still going to be in the 2300 arena, and they have announced ECW luchador Super Crazy and Psicosis will be present, so you will have a chance to feel a little hint of that magic for sure if you make it to this. Of course, you have talents like Solar Jr., Black Taurus, Aries, Tinieblas Jr., who have all been at previous ones, as well as Octagon, who we've talked about a few times on This Week in Lucha Libre. He's a major part of history. This is the first time I will have had a chance to be in the same room with him. I have no idea if he's going to wrestle or if he's just going to be at the signing table all weekend. Either way, it's a fantastic opportunity. This is the same Octagon that was in that historic When Worlds Collide matches. That just well worth your time to have an opportunity to meet him. Did I miss anything, Miranda?
Well, another ECW legend who's going to be there is Juventud Guerrera. And so you already have several ECW arena legends now there. I mean, the list goes on and on. Expo Lucha put out a lot of great posts up over the weekend regarding all of the talent that's going to be there. Super Astro Jr., Gringo Loco, Bestia 666 and Mecha Wolf, Damien 666, Aries, and much, much more. And the announcements are probably going to keep on rolling over the next few months. So make sure if you're not following Expo Lucha on social media, you can find them on Instagram at Expo Lucha Live. And you'll be able to see all of the talent announcements as they are posted, as well as ticket information, which tickets are now available. As you said, Brendan, the sale did pass, but make sure you get them now because, as you also mentioned, Brendan, this is, a redo of what we were supposed to get in 2020 and in 2021. So there are people clamoring to attend this event.
And as a special note, you probably know this if you were a person who purchased tickets for 2020, all of those tickets are still being honored. So if you bought your tickets already for 2020, you shouldn't need to do anything else. But do check your email inbox to make sure you've got some sort of notification on that, or otherwise, I don't want to say something bad will happen, but you're leaving the possibility.
Check. Yes. Yeah. I mean, you probably bought those tickets quite a while ago, so you just want to make sure that they're still there.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Just be safe. I check every once in a while just to be sure, and I don't even need the tickets right now because I'm pretty sure I can just say to the grilled cheese master, please let me in.
Yes. And we'll also be teasing throughout the show a few other people that have been announced for Expo Lucha. We didn't say all the names yet because we're going to tease some additional names a little bit later on in the show. So we'll plant some Easter eggs throughout the show of other talents to expect at Expo Lucha.
And we'll be doing that throughout the months as well. Just like sometimes people will be appearing coincidentally at other events and we'll just bring them up. So, speaking of more events, PWG has announced, their Battle of Los Angeles is going to return on January 29th and January 30th. This is typically an area where we've seen, luchadors greatly exposed to the American wrestling audience. We've seen Bandito, Black Taurus, Rey Horus, many others in these Battle of Los Angeles matches. Most of the cast of Lucha Underground at some point was in PWG, if not at Battle of Los Angeles. So, January 29th, January 30th, PWG is always kind of mysterious about their ticketing events, so I'm not even going to pretend to know how to actually get tickets, but keep an eye on their social media. They will try and let you know. The Lucha Meme show on 11/14 is now been added to IWTV. So if you are an IWTV subscriber and you haven't been aware of it yet, you can now go back and watch that 11/14 show. There were a few good matches on there, and generally Lucha Memes puts on great Lucha content, so worth supporting. We also had an announcement in our Facebook group. The Lucha Central Weekly Facebook group has been having several postings, and they put up a post for Christmas Chaos, which will be Thursday, December 9th. This is presented by Old Fashioned Wrestling and OFW Boyle Heights. It is kind of being characterized as PCW invading Boyle Heights, and as such, we have Hammerstone defending the PCW championship, Eva Van defending her PCW Ultra Women's Championship, and Jay Vidal defending the Ultralight Championship. It's matches that have already been announced. So that's Thursday, December 9th. The poster and information is in our Facebook group, or if you are not a Facebook subscriber, we can get that information to you. GCW is now starting to announce matches for some of their upcoming events. Their 1203 show is now going to have Gringo Loco, Demonic Flamita, and Lowrider against ASF, Drago Kid, and Chris Carter. Some of those names you're going to recognize. Regular listeners of the show will recognize. Some of those names you won't. I promise you they are all fantastic Lucha trained superstars. GCW has been really kind of working hard to bring that sort of content forward. We had a few other things. Now I'm going to switch over to wrestlers doing and saying things now.
That's a segment, new segment. Wrestlers doing and saying things.
Oh yeah. It's all part of this road to shows as we're covering a lot of the other news. So I just wanted we're going to cover, I've talked about shows that are coming up, but now we're going to talk about wrestlers that are going to be doing shows, and sometimes, they do and say things. Mas Lucha had an interview with Andrade where he said he wanted to face Pagano and Dr. Wagner Jr. before Wagner Jr. retired, which is an interesting statement in and of itself, because Wagner Jr. hasn't said anything about retiring for a while, and kind of has been on a newfound sort of tour, but maybe, some people are speculating that maybe that just means we're going to see Wagner show up as a match replacement for some of these other people, because he's already signed to wrestle Pagano at a couple of events, so we'll see. I just thought that was an interesting little, that's a list of any combination of people in this is good to me. Andrade, Pagano, Dr. Wagner, I see any of that. Maybe in a AAA ring, like we'll see. Speaking of people though that from AAA, Psycho Clown did some crazy things online, which got me all worked up. But it turned out it was in fact, I worked myself into a shoot. Psycho Clown went on Twitter and said that Mexican football has more clowns than Lucha Libre, and then started actually having Twitter beef with the club for a hot minute. But it turns out that really what it was is AAA and a jersey manufacturer by the name of Charlie Football were doing 6 Lucha Libre themed alternate jerseys for the teams. Santos Laguna, Leon, Atlas, Cuatrero, Tijuana, Pachuca. So, I was all looking forward to Psycho Clown having Twitter beef with people and just being able to dogpile, but no, it's just a cool shirt announcement. And Dusty's not here to talk about it on the AAA segment, so I got it. Mine, Psycho Clown, I got my eyes on it.
Always has to be your eyes on him. Always.
Yep. There's more of that going on Facebook. Pro Wrestling Revolution got involved at one point because he wasn't at the recent Santa Rosa show. I do not have results for that show yet, so we will not be talking about that on this week's Indie Roundup, but I'm hoping to get that soon. And that's my road back to shows. I kind of think that's the best way to segment into the Indie Roundup. This week I really wanted to focus on, since I mentioned that Facebook group earlier, we've had a number of really good matches from recent as well as historical events being put up. I wanted to give shout outs to Mask Toys and Danny Floyd in particular, who have been populating with lots of great matches. I wasn't originally talking about much about these because I couldn't verify if these were recent or classic matches, but since they're putting up so much content, I wanted to just throw some names out there on that. The most recent one that was put up is from Kingdom Wrestling 3, which featured Negro Cassius, Javio 4, Volcano, against Blue Panther, El Felino, and Chamaco Becerra. So, go to our Facebook group and check that out. These are all on YouTube. So again, if you are not on Facebook, you're one of those people that has given up the Facebooks, we can get you links other ways. But do check that out. I did want to mention that. And then, we had a Riot event, which, the main and most interesting thing to me is that they were playing kind of event, or venue roulette. It was signed up for a different venue. It wound up at the Arena Femenil Monterrey in Nuevo Leon. And then they had 6 matches. Just real quick, we'll cover the second half of the card, where you had Damien 666 and Muerte Extreme in a no DQ match, which means that somebody got skewers in the head and cookie sheets upside the head. So Damien came out on top on that. And then you had Extreme Tiger and Iron Kid in a match. Extreme Tiger, not a name we've said a lot on this show lately, and I'm happy to be able to say it again. That's kind of an old school reference for the Impact days for a lot of American viewers. Extreme Tiger did get the win on that. You had a match with Prometeo, Baby Extreme, Kratos for the Riot Championship contenders. And Prometeo came out on top on that one. Baby Extreme is always a standout in every match, though, so well worth watching. And then you had Hechicero against Eric Ortiz in the main event. Hechicero came out on top on that one. So that was my real quick indie roundup. As always, let me know what you guys want. There's always more things I can be covering. We kept it kind of simple and neat this week because there was a lot with the week that we didn't get, and I wanted to just focus on recent stuff so that we could keep moving ahead. But if there's something that you felt I missed, don't worry, I'm going to try and get those PWR results for you. Anything else you want me to cover, please let me know. But that's the Indie Roundup for the week.
Thank you, Brendan, for the road back to shows and the Indie Roundup. Next, well, you know what time it is. We're going to kick it off to Denise Salcedo, who brings us this week's Lucha Central.
Why should you visit thechairshot.com? Thechairshot.com is your home for hard-hitting reviews, news, opinion, and analysis with attitude. Why? Because you're smarter than the average fan. Thechairshot.com. Always use your head.
Hey everyone, it's Denise Salcedo here in Lucha Central with a reminder of where and when to catch all of the great network content this week. Get the full lineup and listen to all of our shows in the podcast network section of luchacentral.com. On Tuesdays, Mass Mats and Mayhem takes you inside the world of Lucha Underground as they take you weekly through the series with the benefit of hindsight and the benefit of special guests from the groundbreaking series. Check out the premiere video stream every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern on the Lucha Central YouTube channel and at luchacentral.com. Then listen to it on your favorite podcast platform every Wednesday. Tuesday nights live, it's Wrestle Boss, where Fabi Chulo talks MMA and pro wrestling with special guests and listener call-ins. Visit WrestleBossLive.com Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. Pacific to listen live or call in with questions or download the show on podcast platforms on Wednesdays. Wednesday nights live on Facebook, it's Spanish show La Mesa de los Márgaros, giving you both the news and the chisme from around the lucha world. Special guests and a whole lot of fun make it one of the most talked about shows in Mexico. Thursdays, it's Straight Out of the Bodega with Papo Esco and PWR promoter Gabriel Ramirez as they have guests from throughout the wrestling world pull up to give an inside look into their careers. From indie standouts to television superstars, each week brings a new name and perspective. On Friday, it's your double dose of Lucha Central Weekly podcast, one in English y el otro en español. Lucha Central Weekly is where you'll find all the top stories of the week, both inside and out of the ring from Mexico and anywhere luchadores are in action across the globe. Be sure to subscribe and follow all your favorite Lucha Central Network series on your favorite podcast platforms, either by their own series name or subscribe to the Lucha Central Podcast Network show pages to get all of the shows in one easy feed. And please consider giving a rating to help more fans find the shows that you love. For now, this is Denise Salcedo signing off from Lucha Central. Have a great week.
Lucha-Masks.com by Pro Wrestling Revolution, bringing you, in partnership with Masked Republic, the Lucha Brothers, as well as Japanese legend Ultimo Dragon. Go to lucha-masks.com and fight Lucha Strong with masks from your favorite Lucha legends and Pro Wrestling Revolution luchadores. Stay safe in style and represent your favorite luchador. Get yours now at lucha-masks.com, powered by Pro Wrestling Revolution.
And a big thank you to Denise Salcedo, who brings us this week's Lucha Central, letting you know what's happening throughout the Lucha Central Podcast Network. So, as far as our big news of the week, we have to talk about AAA TrilpeMania Regia happening this weekend. And as I had mentioned at the beginning of the show, we did have a little bit of delay in recording, and well, we missed out on some pretty big news, but we're going to be talking about it now, and that is the news of Kenny Omega vacating the AAA Mega Championship. That happened, right before Thanksgiving, I believe. And this was stated from AAA. Specifically, the news was confirmed by Konnan that due to a substantial amount of injuries that Kenny Omega has sustained, and that information was out there after his match at Full Gear with oh my gosh, why am I blanking on his name?
Sorry, I was checking up on the Twitter for a second there. At Full Gear, wow.
It was Kenny.
We do this we actually treat this seriously, folks. So this is just us being very behind the memory blockage here.
Yes, yeah. It's been a long few weeks, and this is why we always have Dusty here. But Kenny and he does cowboy shit. But anyways,
Hangman Adam Page.
Hangman Adam Page. Yes. So after Kenny's match with Hangman Adam Page, it was being reported that Kenny's had a substantial amount of injuries that have been bothering for quite some time. And that led to, even just speculation about how prepared and how healthy Kenny was going to be for TripleMania Regia happening on December 4th. And that is when AAA announced that Kenny had vacated the title. With that came some big changes to the title picture. We then found out that the match was going to convert to a 5-way match for the vacant AAA Mega Championship. We knew that Hijo del Vikingo was going to be in the match. However, AAA announced 4 other names shortly thereafter that was going to be included. Those 4 names are Samurai del Sol, formerly known as Kalisto, Jay Lethal, Bobby Fish, and Bandito. So we now have a 5-way match for the AAA Mega Championship. And we had discussed this on the show as far as our thoughts on Kenny versus Hijo de Vikingo, and really did think that was going to be the passing of the torch from Kenny to Hijo de Vikingo. It still feels that way, with the odds still kind of stacked up against Hijo, but also a great opportunity to showcase other lucha talent. And, as much as, it's a buzzy term, but it happens, the forbidden door with, U.S. talent, American talent like Bobby Fish and Jay Lethal. Brennan, I do want to get your quick thoughts on the change-ups to this match.
Well, I'm going to start with the elephant in the room, the Jay Lethal and Bobby Fish editions. I don't think they added enough to this. I understand they want, spoiler, this is going to be available in the U.S. We'll give you details on that later. They want to be able to reach a broader U.S. audience. Just like I said in previous weeks about Jay Lethal showing up in AEW, I don't think he adds enough. I don't think this is the point. He's the guy at the point in the career that's going to draw eyes to this product. I think
I have to agree. Same thing, with Bobby Fish. He isn't necessarily as controversial as Jay Lethal is, but I don't think people are going to buy this show to watch Bobby Fish.
Nope. You are. I agree with you. That's why I was lumping the two of them together.
Yes.
I think
I would even say the same for Jay Lethal, to be honest.
Yeah.
I really don't think U.S. audiences are going to gravitate towards these 2 names in particular. I feel like more people, U.S. audiences, would buy this for Cain Velasquez than Jay Lethal and Bobby Fish.
Well, but they also have Bandito on there, who is a legit indie superstar. So
that too, but I think just in general, like more American household names. I think maybe non-Lucha Libre fan possibly would be more inclined to watch. Based off of some of the other names.
I agree. Cain Velasquez would have been a big name to add to that. He would have a little more trouble kind of fitting in with the level of talent on this. Not that Cain is not talented, but he has not been a full-time wrestler. He's an athlete that has been doing a lot of things. There will be other talk about him, but there's some other big names they could have done with the recent releases. There's, Samurai del Sol would also kind of not the top draw, but he's a big draw. He will get people. But if you really wanted to do that, you could have grabbed Grand Metalik or Dusty Sky, whose name just shot out of my. I'm doing it again. It's the memory.
Striguana?
No, well, him too.
That's a Dusty guy.
But he's not the one for the U.S. audiences, although.
Not yet. Lindsay?
Lindsay, there we go. Lindsay, they're on. I apologize, Lindsay. I even spoke with you on the show. It's really just that we're doing this, and your mask was in my head, but not your name. I was seeing all of your great masks.
Well, and I know there's still, very interesting as far as timelines go and what people are doing But yeah, I mean, I think if it was an ideal world, I think this too being Lindsay's first show, if this, fantasy
Mhm.
booking here, I think that would have been a big draw too. But you have a very interesting group of wrestlers in this 5-way match.
Mhm.
I do think it adds a lot of credibility if we still see or predict what we had originally thought with Hijo de Vikingo winning, 4 very reputable, experienced talent, that he can, come on top over. But even as, big things, say, we're really fantasy booking here, if Samurai del Sol won, or say Bandito won, and then ends up concurrently being, ROH and AAA mega champion, that's some pretty big, implications there. So, who knows, what that's, all of this, will lead to. But I think it's still going to be a very entertaining match.
I do want to go over, now that I've gotten my negative aspect, I do want to go over the positives of this 5-way. Having Bobby Fish in there in particular as a seasoned veteran that is really good at making other people look good. So even though he's quite probably not going to win this thing, he's going to make Vikingo and Bandito look like superstars when he's in the ring with them. Jay Lethal is a very seasoned veteran who can do a lot of great things in there. He can match the high-flying antics of the luchadors. He can match the ground wrestling of Bobby Fish. So he's also going to add a lot to this match, just from a mechanic standpoint. And maybe that's what they went for with this. Maybe they went with 2 guys that weren't going to be as big of a draw, but are going to really make the guys they want to have stand out, really stand out. So that is... that's probably on Konnan and a couple other people in AAA, but there are some definite positives and big aspects that can come out of this, and I think that's going to make this a really big main event match. They do have a number of matches that are going to be really good on this. We talked about this in previous weeks. This is a loaded card, and it's only gotten more loaded since we last talked about it.
Yeah. Well, and with that, Brendan, you can definitely mention there's been some updates and changes to the card since we last talked about it.
Yeah, so I'm going to start with the tease that I did earlier. They have announced officially that it's going to be on FITE. So we're going to have a 6:30 start time on the FITE network, 6:30 CST. And we went from 4 matches, which is what I believe we talked about on the last show, to 5 matches, back to 4 matches. And now we're going to have 6 matches on the FITE network, plus possibly 1 or 2 more that get filmed for another AAA event. But let's go over what we've got for the card. We're going to have what they call this is straight from the FITE network. These terminologies are straight from the FITE network promotion for this. So we have a trios fight featuring Poder del Norte versus Vipers versus the Nueva Generación Dinamita. So that's Poder del Norte, Tito Santana and Carta Brava Jr. and the names are just Dusty. Where are you? And against the Vipers, who've been recently on a lot of AAA television. This is Ripper / Psychosis 2 and Abismo Negro, and then the new wave of Generation Dinamita, who we were talking about, were the big turnovers from CMLL. They showed up at the last big event, made a big splash without even wrestling. They've wrestled a few matches since then, but this is going to be a big pay-per-view event. They've been feuding with Poder del Norte, and the Viper Squad have recently been inserting themselves, attacking both sides on television matches. So they've added a lot of story to make this kind of exciting, but also you have in Poder del Norte and Nueva Generación Dinamita, 2 of the most acknowledged trios teams in the world right now, going at it. So you've got a recipe for magic here. Then the next match they gave us is the Honor Fight with Chessman and the Psycho Circus, consisting of Murder Clown and Dave the Clown, against La Empresa. So Sam Adonis, DMT Azul, and Puma King with Estrelita hanging around. This will sound an awful lot like one of the previous pay-per-views we talked about, where poor Dave the Clown was absolutely destroyed. So this is being framed a little bit as Dave's chance for revenge, as well as having a kind of united Psycho Circus with Chessman facing off against La Empresa. That's going to be fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We have a tag team match with La Faction Ingobernable, consisting of Dragon Lee and Dralistico, against Laredo Kid and a Luchador Sorpresa. So I have no idea. Looking at who else is on this card already, I have no idea. It could be some of these American guys. It could be, but you would think they would announce them. Like if we were going to get a Lindsay or Grand Metalik, you would think they would announce them. So I have no idea. This has the potential to be match of the night, depending on who that partner is. Is Dragon Lee and Dralistico against Laredo Kid and a Sack of Potatoes is already a good match. So, get somebody else really good in there, it will steal the whole show. And the AAA World Tag Team Championships, currently held by FTR, are going to be on the line. The Lucha Brothers are getting their rematch for it. We will be talking a bit more about this match in AEW, as these are also AEW tag teams. But this is for the AAA Championship, not the AEW Championship, on the AAA branded show. So this could be one where we see a title change, or they could just be teasing marks like me to make me tune in and see if this is the time where they actually lose the belts. And then in the semi-main, we have a trios match featuring Psycho Clown, Pagano, and Cain Velasquez versus LA Park and Los Mercenarios, consisting of Rey Scorpion and Tarus. So there is where you've got your Cain Velasquez, your Pagano, your Psycho Clown. That's the reason they're not in the main event with for the championship. You have LA Park returning to AAA, to bringing violence and chaos with him. And, so this is a loaded card. This is, even in a 2019 pre-COVID world, this card is a worldwide pay attention to this card. So, getting these 6 matches, on FITE is a fantastic deal, and hopefully it does what it's supposed to and pulls eyes onto it, because AAA is making big moves.
Yes, and it's a big deal to have this available to U.S. audiences through FITE TV, as we've talked about several times with the lawsuit with AAA and, streaming being very challenging for anyone in the U.S. to get access to. Being able to do it through the right means on FITE TV, hopefully makes it appealing. And the fact that I believe the price is only $19.99.
Let me pull that up one more time.
Yes, I believe that's what I saw when I pulled up FITE TV, that it was only $19.99, which in comparison to a lot of shows is a pretty good deal. Just $20 for, at this point, a series of really good matches, plus a killer main event that is going to crown a new AAA mega champion.
Yeah, it is still $19.99 on FITE. Because it's FITE, I expect that means you'll be able to get it as a video on demand afterwards. So if you're listening to this after the event has gone on, you could still go on FITE and grab it. This is great. And you hit the nail on the head. We were kind of underplaying it, or I was, because I was more excited about the matches. But yeah, to have anything right now with the FMV lawsuit that's been happening, having everything blocked, having the YouTube channel brought down, AAA's YouTube channel is still not available in America. You try and watch things on their official YouTube channel. It says that it's blocked in this region now. It's also made our This Week in Lucha challenging at times too. So, being able to have access to it is a story in and of itself that we should not undersell. It's very important and very cool. And like you said, if you can afford the $20, please do this the official and non-piracy way, because that means we'll get more Lucha Libre in the United States if this is successful.
Well, make sure you tuned in to next week's show, because we will absolutely be covering all of the matches from AAA TrilpeMania Regia, because again, the implications of the results of all these matches, but especially the main event, is going to be sending ripples throughout both, just not only Lucha Libre, but the world of professional wrestling.
Yeah. I mean, there's still chances that tag team match will have just as big, if not a bigger impact. So stay tuned for the results. Yes.
And they'll probably definitely be covered on luchacentral.com. I say that pretty surely, though, those results will be posted on luchacentral.com. Speaking of, we're going to wait a little bit to talk about some news coming, some previews of Rampage. But we are going to jump into AEW Dynamite. Again, Brendan and I are taking over for Dusty. So usually Dusty does a fantastic job with his thoroughness of the show. Us, not so much. We're just going to focus on a few things this week. I did not have
time to watch all of Elevation.
This is why we do a divide and conquer type of format. Because literally there is so much wrestling out there that we as individuals do not have the time, and why Dusty does such a great job in his reviews. And you'll see in our reviews of other products, other shows of this week, some are a little bit more thorough, some are not. But, I think this is very fitting, though, because Brendan and I both saw the highlights of this particular match from Dynamite and have thoughts on it, and we're very curious about everyone's thoughts. That was the match between Cody and Andrade in the Atlanta Street Fight match. And really, if you didn't see the match, you probably, though, saw the clip circulating all over the internet of Cody and Andrade going through a flaming table, and primarily Cody going through a flaming table, but still getting the win over Andrade.
Spoiler, I hate that.
Yes. Like, how did we get here? If this is not the antithesis of, that escalated quickly, I am not sure what is.
Yeah.
How did we, I don't even remember Cody and Andrade fighting 2 weeks ago.
Well, so
in a feud.
They have been building this feud. Andrade has been more having a war with words with him. They've been involved in 6-man matches, which have been developing multiple feuds. But up until this week, it was largely Cody and Aleister Black, or whatever his name.
Right? Yes. Malachi.
Malachi Black. It was mostly we were looking at it as those two. So when it was announced we were going to have an Andrade Cody match, most people like me were looking at it going, well, this is going to build this kind of weird mix and match pieces feud that they've been doing with all these ex-NXT guys versus Cody. And instead we got this match. For those of you,
go ahead. Yes.
Yeah, for those of you that didn't see the match, we've already given away the ending where there was a giant flaming table, but there was
the internet gave away the ending, to be fair.
But but there was more spots than that. This was a giant slog.
I haven't seen them according to the internet.
Crazy spots.
Yes.
But you had Arn Anderson falling off a ramp.
Oh yeah, that did happen. I did see that too. That was kind of funny. Not funny, but kind of funny.
In its own weird way, kind of funny. Yeah. DDTs on the outside, giant moves being done, multiple tables being destroyed. it was, the whole match was a lot, and to your point, 2 weeks ago, they weren't really in a full-on feud, and they went to this kind of feud ender match on free TV, just out of nowhere, and that alone bothers me.
Yes,
Like,
yeah.
you know,
It was very confusing. So this spot in particular that we're talking about, Brandy Rose came out. She actually was the person who put the lighting liquid, gasoline almost, or I think it was just lighter fluid, on the table and set the table on fire. Cody ended up, I believe it was a suplex.
they called it a reverse DDT.
Reverse DDT, okay. In which Cody's back was the one who directly hit the flaming table. Andrade barely got, oh, there you go, yes, it was, yeah, as I watch it again. Cody's clothing was still on fire. A little part of his pant leg and another piece of clothing, I think, was caught on fire because he got the brunt of the impact. So it doesn't seem like the table was moved out far enough. It was too close to the turnbuckle, to the point where Cody got the brunt of it. So I think, as to kind of echo your sentiments, the fact that this escalated very quickly, and usually a match like this would be one where it would be a feud ender, or there would be much more animosity and storytelling to get to this point. But I do think AEW has a tendency of doing that, going through feuds quickly and rotating through things. In some ways it's good because they don't necessarily linger on things too much, and things that took time, like Adam Page and Kenny Omega was able to go in and out of a feud for over about a year. Yeah. And it made sense to that point. But this one in particular doesn't make as much sense. It also is just as we've also discussed our concerns in their booking of Andrade, and how, again, he's in another losing feud. Granted, the philosophy of wins and losses don't matter. I do feel like there is a sentiment to that. I do believe there's truth in that.
There is, but
yes,
Andrade has not won a high-profile match on AEW television.
Yes.
That's the problem. Like, he's not been, so wins and losses don't matter, but what they're telling without saying is that Andrade is not in the same caliber.
I think this would have made more sense if Andrade got the win so that Cody can come back and beat Andrade. I think just that simple change would have kind of changed my mind about what they were doing with this, almost to the fact that Andrade needed a match like this, or turn the tables on Cody in his own type of match to beat him.
And I honestly thought that's what was going to happen when I saw Cody hit the table. I was like, oh, this could be interesting storytelling. You have Brandy setting the table on fire without Cody knowing about it, Cody going through the burning table, wondering what the hell went on. Then you can have the Cody show go on with Brandy and then Andrade comes out of this looking good. But that's not what they did. And this is what bugs me about the Cody show, and this is what bugs me about the EVPs in general, is they're willing to just destroy the talent that they should be building up in order to have their glory matches. Because that's all this was. This was in front of Cody's hometown. He wanted to have a big match. He said in an interview somewhere he was tired of a move being the one that they always show in his clips, so he's going to do something new. So now you know what the new thing is, because it's going to be him going through that flaming table for another year before he gets bored of that. And then unfortunately Andrade got brought along for the ride, and how he got drafted into this and not Malachi Black, I don't know. Maybe because he's desperate enough for big profile matches that he was willing to say, yeah, I'll do this and take the loss, because in his mind he thinks he can bounce back, without realizing that the American audience is being told, all the way from his WWE programming where he lost over and over again through now, that he is not an important player. That's what they're being told. I can go on Twitter and see casual fans talking about him as being a jobber and a loser.
Mm. And, I do think that the viral clips of this video, probably is what AEW wanted. I don't know how much that's going to help Andrade in the long run as, visibility. We will see what happens next week, though. I do have to admit it piques my interest in what's happening with Cody and Andrade. My hope is that they continue this, that somehow this fuels something a little bit more and this isn't just a one-off with them, but we will see. I do also want to give the floor to you, Brendan, to talk a little bit about some previews of Rampage, including something that we talked a little bit about just earlier for TripleMania Regia.
Yeah, so the spoilers are out, and I'm gonna let Dusty have the joy of talking about the opening match, which is Sammy Guevara defending against Tony Nese. Trust the system here. It looks like it was going to be a great match, but the important spoiler I wanted to talk on is that we're going to have FTR against it's supposed to be the Lucha Bros, but they replaced why am I having so much trouble with names tonight? The team that they got, we get instead is Pac and Penta. So, Phoenix is not in the match that night, and Pac is the one that takes the fall, and Aleister Black, I keep saying that, Malachi Black, comes in for a post-match beatdown on Pac. So instead of being what it could have been, which is a big lead in to TripleMania Regia to kind of expand the brands a little bit, make this Forbidden Door thing work. We're back to this story of AEW is only looking out for AEW with this Forbidden Door, and they're forwarding their own storyline just 24 hours before TripleMania Regia, when they had an opportunity to really do something unique and special.
Yeah. Well, I think that it's a very interesting way of going into TripleMania Regia, and I do feel like this feud in and of itself is one that you want to keep on watching. And I think even being able to see the difference of how it's presented in AEW television to AAA, to me is fascinating. I actually do think almost seeing the same thing just a day apart will be very, very interesting to see.
Except for, again, we're not even getting the same thing, because they changed the team. They're focusing on this FTR this weird alliance that's part of the same Andrade match, the Andrade thing we were just talking about, where FTR and Andrade and Malachi Black are all kind of this weird semi-faction depending on the week. And that's kind of where it finishes up instead, is forwarding that. So in an odd way, it's forwarding the Andrade storyline as well.
Yeah.
Which is, to your point, an interesting development. And I do want to see how this all plays out instead of just reading the results.
Well, and it makes you wonder, are we going to see Andrade at TripleMania Regia? Because he's not, he seemed to be kind of a one and done in AAA. And when I think about someone who would have been very interesting to add to this, to that Mega Champion, to that 5-way match, makes me curious about if Andrade, why is he not on there? Granted, who knows exactly what his situation with AAA is, but it does also, can absolutely tease maybe he shows up.
I would like to see him show up. I have a lot of people have speculated that Andrade didn't sign on for that match because they weren't going to have him win.
Yeah.
And I think he's still kind of feeling burned by the fact that he didn't get to win in that last.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if we go back to talking a little bit about the way that Kenny Omega ended his Mega Championship reign, it feels, granted, it was due to injury. It was one where, it was not inevitable, it was unavoidable. And to put his, health first, especially, I mean, he has been working very actively now for over a year. And so, having the opportunity to recuperate and not endure any more injury is super, super important. But it also then makes you wonder opportunities where he could have lost the belt and it would have meant something more than him vacating it.
Yeah, and I said it on the last time we were talking about that subject, that, hindsight especially makes this worse. But yeah, had Andrade won that TripleMania, I think it was TripleMania, that match, and won the AAA championship then, he would have been ahead of the wave of the new toys with CM Punk, Daniel Bryan, and all of that stuff. He would have a big win over a major player in two different promotions.
Yeah.
And he would be positioned just fantastically differently at this moment in time. Yeah. And now knowing that we're not going to get, one of the things we didn't talk about is that the speculation is that we're going to get Hijo del Vikingo and Kenny Omega as in one of the early title defenses. They're thinking he might come back and that'll be one of the first title defenses to get that match. But, to your point now, Andrade could show up, and challenge for that belt again at the end of the show and build something, build something interesting that way. So we'll see. Yeah. This is why we started with AAA, because we're going to be referencing back to AAA throughout the show. Yes, AEW is about AAA this week. MLW and all of those things, we may wind up tying it all back in.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Very good point. So don't forget, though, the weekly results for AEW are available on luchacentral.com. So if you miss anything from this week in AEW television, check out luchacentral.com. And Brendan, you just made a beautiful segue for MLW because we do have a lot to catch up on. 2 weeks of Alpha Fusion, as well as a little bit of teaser of information for the MLW Azteca Underground / Crash show happening just at least in recording time 24 hours. By the time you listen to this, that show has probably already happened, but for us, we're still in preview mode. So first off, a quick rundown of the MLW Thanksgiving show. The very first match, we had an Opera Cup semifinal match, TJP versus Calvin Tankman, in which TJP advanced. In this match, TJP, again, always with the agility and being able to capitalize on the size of someone like Calvin Tankman. However, he had some help, whether he liked it or not. Alex Kane came out and ended up causing a distraction. Him and his associate caused multiple distractions throughout the match, with either the referee or just distracting Calvin Tankman. Towards the end of the match, Calvin Tankman was sent into an exposed turnbuckle by Alex Kane, and then TJP was able to capitalize on that and use the Mamba Splash for the win. Also on the Thanksgiving edition of Alpha Fusion, we had the ladder match for the vacant National Openweight Championship. It was Alex Shelley versus Myron Reed versus Alex Kane versus Senshi versus a mystery opponent who was revealed to be ACH, making his return to MLW. And, we got to put our boy Senshi over. The man is an acrobatic genius. He had some great spots, especially a great sequence with Myron Reed throughout the match. He landed a really big drop kick on a ladder into Alex Kane. He also landed a 619 on Myron Reed. And an awesome spot where he jumped, I believe, from one of the top ropes, to almost get the belt. And that's one thing. Zenshi is the aerial artist. So he is fearless in his flying attempts and his aerial delivery. And there was another good spot towards the end of the match where Zenshi hit Myron Reed with a head scissors off the ladder. That left an opening, though, for Alex Shelley to knock off Zenshi. And then from there, Alex Kane knocked off Alex Shelley in order to claim the Openweight Championship. And he is now your new MLW Openweight Champion. This was a really fun match to watch. And it's not a longer match. It's really towards the end of the show. It is the end of the show. But it was a very fast-paced, very quick ladder match that doesn't take up too much time. So I highly recommend watching this match in particular from the Thanksgiving episode. This week on MLW, we had the finals of the Opera Cup. As we saw in the previous week, TJP advanced to the finals to face Davey Richards. And in this match, TJP came in very confident, very cocky about his ability to win. Davey Richards was coming in, for someone who's a veteran though, came in very humbled, very appreciative of the experience, and not taking any of this for granted, knowing that he had to fight TJP for this opportunity. And he did. Davey Richards won when he locked in the ankle lock and made TJP tap out. So your Opera Cup winner for 2022 is Davey Richards. As far as for the rest of the show, they did announce for next week, we are going to see 5150 versus Los Parks for the MLW Tag Team titles. 5150 has just been fire with their promos, and finally Cesar Duran has delivered. And he is going to give 5150 the match. We are going to see that next week on MLW television, as well as the debut of Enzo. He's going to be facing Matt Ross. As far as some future announcements, MLW has announced Blood and Thunder that's going to be happening in Dallas in January. They announced this week that Roxy will be appearing at Blood and Thunder, the reigning Ring of Honor Women's Champion. So MLW has been very adamant and clear about an open door policy for talents from all over, and having Roxy there as the Ring of Honor Women's Champion is going to be a big for their women's division that they're really establishing and flourishing. The last thing I want to mention with MLW is the card for their show between MLW Azteca Underground and Crash Lucha Libre that will be happening on December 3rd, Tijuana, Baja California, Mexico. And Mas Lucha put out a tweet just yesterday with the anticipated card. Now, this has not been confirmed by MLW or Crash, but Mas Lucha Libre is a pretty, in touch source, and it ended up on Wikipedia. So, in some ways, we will see how canon this is, but it is the full card for the MLW Crash show, and I just want to share some matches that are listed in this rundown. We're going to have some amazing matches, and people are going to be pulling some double or triple duty this weekend. We do have a trios match between Hijo del Vikingo, Laredo Kid, and Octagon Jr. versus Davey Richard, Ray Orris, and Alex Kane. We also have another trios match in which Dynamico, Black Danger, and Aries will be facing Aramis, Destiny, and Mystices Jr. This one, I think, will pique your interest, Brendan. We have Richard Holiday versus Psycho Clown.
Woohoo!
And that could be a dangerous place for Richard Holiday. But you know what? Maybe being IWA Puerto Rican Caribbean champion has taught him a few things about hardcore wrestling, because he may need that in facing Psycho Clown. An Escalera al Inferno match between Bestia 666 and Mads Kruger. A tag team match, 5150, that's Danny Rivera and Slice Boogie versus Aerostar and Drago. and a hardcore tag team match, Pagano and Alex Hammerstone versus King Muertes and Torres. As well as Mecha Wolf versus Extreme Tiger and Toto versus Proximo. So, again, this has been reported by Masa Lucha. This is a card that they put up on their Twitter account. I have not been able to verify it by MLW or other sources, so, take it with a grain of salt. But if this is indeed the case, this is quite a show between MLW and Crash.
Yeah, that's a heck of a lineup. I hope that's even half of that is true, because that's going to be amazing.
Yes. I was trying to play on the side of caution, but, the Escalera al Inferno match between Bestia and Mads, that sounds, so great. Both of the trios matches are going to be ridiculous. I mean, especially Hijo, Laredo Kid, and Octagon versus Davey Richards, Ray Oris, and Alex Kane. That in and of itself, is going to be good. And I feel like that is such a good utilization of U.S. talent in Davey and Alex partnering with Ray. That in itself, I feel like is a very strong match. And man, talk about house fight big boys. Pagano, Alex Hammerstone, King Muertes, and Torres.
Right?
Yes.
Right? Oh, man. No, but what I really like, to your point about the other one, is it's a traditional Lucha Libre trios match.
Yes.
So you're getting American wrestlers, but you're getting a traditional lucha match. So you're kind of getting the best of all worlds, and hopefully, to our conversation earlier, that means American fans can get more of a taste of traditional Lucha Libre style matches. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, make sure you tune in to our show next week as we are able to learn results of this show. We are going to share them absolutely, because again, if these matches are scheduled as they have been listed through Masa Lucha, then this is going to be a hell of a card. And hopefully also these are going to be recorded and aired on MLW's social medias and YouTube, and we can see them as part of Fusion Alpha. Up next, well, this is usually where Dusty does this week in Lucha Libre history, and we're going to try to do him justice this week. I don't have the same spiel as Dusty does. I don't have his notes.
That's all Dusty.
That's all Dusty. That's all Dusty. But we hit into this week in Lucha Libre history. This day in Lucha Libre history is available on luchacentral.com. In this segment, we cover an important moment within this week in the world of Lucha Libre, and we discuss how poignant it is, what it's, our memories of it, and some of the implications it may have had in the world of pro wrestling. This week, we are covering November 30th, 1998, and that's when Legends of Lucha Libre star Konnan won the WCW World Television Championship after beating Chris Jericho at the WCW Monday Nitro at the UTC Arena in Chattanooga, Tennessee, episode 168. This is available online on YouTube, one of the few things that, well, you could still find on there. And the match itself is not long. I believe only around, 8 minutes? And for me, what I really gravitated to, or was poignant for me, is that, one, this is prime annoying Chris Jericho. He was out there with his security guard, Rufus, yes.
Yeah.
And, very annoying, very flamboyant. You had Konnan in the Wolfpack gear and part of the NWO Wolfpack. And what to me stood out, at least initially in the beginning too, is there was a big crowd pop for almost everything, but it was the little things, from an arm drag to a clothesline to a shoulder block. It really got the crowd excited. It wasn't a technical masterpiece by any means, not like you see, as we've talked about, in the Cruiserweight division and other matches in WCW. Yeah. But I think it was just more landing more simple moves so that the bigger moves made an ovation. So when Jericho did the lion salt, when he rolled into the lion tamer, those were things that the crowd really really popped for. Even though Chris Jericho was a heel at this time, the crowd got behind him.
Really?
Well, yes and no. So I feel like he was easily able to get underneath the crowd's skin. But he was way more dynamic and entertaining on a personality than Konnan.
But they cheered him for doing that. That was, yes. I remember this period of Chris Jericho very well. Like, he was a heel, but we were tuning in to see what stupid things he was gonna do.
Yes.
Like, you know, like, he was more of an anti-hero, a comedic anti-hero at this point, where we were rooting for him even though he was the asshole bad guy.
Yeah, what were your thoughts as you were watching this match?
Well, so a lot of the time, you and we like to talk about the story that's going on, and that was one of the things that I didn't. I won't say I didn't care for, but I found this was less relevant to either of these individuals' storylines. This was Konnan winning this title was about the NWO Wolfpack having more gold and the red and black brand having some semblance of power in the master storyline. Whereas Chris Jericho could afford to lose, and he would then go on a tirade about being screwed again and get catapulted further up the card. So,
and so explain this also referee, because you've also had some experience in refereeing, because I thought the ending of this match, I just want to make sure I understood this. So in the match, towards the end, Chris Jericho thought he had won the match after locking in the lion tamer. Konnan was close to the ropes and he was able to grab that. So Chris Jericho broke the lion tamer, not because of the referee count, because he thought he got Konnan to tap. So he grabbed the belt, was going to use the belt to hit Konnan. He ended up dropping it. Konnan hit him. He dropped it. And then ended up using it to do an X Factor just to hit, Chris Jericho's face onto the belt. Mm-hmm. Explain to me, is that not utilization of is that...
So that falls under the...
disqualification?
That falls under what they would call referee discretion. And it would have been better if the commentators had put that over. If the referee determines that the use of the hitting of the belt was accidental or incidental because the belt was introduced into the ring and then not properly cleared out. If they determine that if the referee was to decide Konnan didn't do that on purpose, which, I mean, I don't know what world he would be living in, but this is the...
Well, and that's true. He didn't bring the belt into the ring. Chris Jericho did. So I get that. I know under some matches, the referee would have still declared that a disqualification because of the utilization of this, illegal object.
So to use modern day refs, if Aubrey, who's much more of a straight down the middle kind of law and order style ref, she probably would have called that a disqualification. Like that would have been a much bigger storyline. Whereas the more permissive referees, like the Bucks' favorite referee, would just be like, "Oh, it was there, just don't worry about it," and that's what we got. And I think the storyline going on in WCW at the time was you had a crooked ref, you had you had wrestlers who were just going crazy every week, and the refs, the non-crooked refs, were just looking powerless. So I think a lot of them were just at that point, storyline wise, just there to pick up a paycheck. So, that's, I saw that too. I wasn't the biggest fan of it, on rewatching it. I remember at the time, not really thinking about it. But yeah, my ref training eyes looked at that and went, that's just That's just messy.
I'm just nitpicking on this, because the match itself was, definitely entertaining. Prime Chris Jericho, and you could tell his understanding of wrestling from, that lucha experience that he'd had previously, and why working with Konnan did seem so effortless, and how he was able to connect with the crowd and be able, again, I think it was the little things that they did that got the crowd over, but also made those bigger moves that much more of an impact statement.
To your point, that was one of the more interesting things in my rewatch of this match, is just I don't want to say low effort, because that makes it sound like they were just maybe they were, but I see what you mean. These are two guys that we've both seen operate within a couple of years of that match at a much higher level. Mm-hmm. But to your point, they were able to draw a really good match out of doing, less than 10 bumps and a whole bunch of arm drags. So you got a lot out of that for not a lot of work in. And it might have been because they had a really aggressive filming schedule. It might have been because neither of them really wanted to go over the top in the extra mile, since the change of hands was about that. It might have just been one of the two of them saying, "Hey, let's see how much we can do with just how little. Let's see how much we can, because they can always pull big moves out of their back pocket if they think they're losing the crowd. But since they weren't, then they didn't need to. So I don't know. I found that very interesting. But I loved that they were able to pull that out. I love that I was able to watch it and notice that they were just doing small moves very well and still kept me involved in the match. So it was kind of fun.
Well, that was this week in Lucha Libre History. Again, don't forget to check out this day in Lucha Libre History at luchacentral.com. But you know what? There's a lot more at luchacentral.com than meets the eye. Brendan, can you let our listeners know what else they can find there?
All right, let's do this. So if you're listening to this and you haven't visited luchacentral.com, it's really time to do it. LuchaCentral.com is the online home for Lucha Libre, where you can get all of the top news in English and in Spanish, find the best curated video content and original content not seen anywhere else, find when Lucha Libre events would be happening in your area, find photo galleries from top photographers covering Lucha Libre around the world, a place to have your voices heard from weekly polls to annual awards, seen and read by top executives in all of the major Lucha Libre promotions across the globe. And on top of all of that, it's free. LuchaCentral.com, your centralized place for all things Lucha Libre.
Brendan, you have some CMLL results.
Yes. So we did, in fact, during one of the weeks here, have the Leyenda de Azul tournament, which featured Sobranario Jr., Angel de Oro, Ultimo Guerrero, Barbario Cavernario, Atlantis Jr., Hechicero, Stuka Jr., Terrible, Blue Panther, Sagrado, Gran Guerrero, Emilio Diablo 1, Dark Panther, Dragon Rojo Jr., Esfinge, and Emilio Diablo 2. Now, we talked about that I've talked about this tournament on this week in Lucha Libre. This is to honor Blue Demon. A lot of the wrestlers came out there wearing, this is the original Blue Demon, not the current Blue Demon Jr. Just to be extra clear on this, in case anybody is still thinking about the TV show or all the weird Blue Demon Jr. updates we've done about weird things in his life. This is the original Blue Demon that was in the movies with the Saint, El Santo. So, that's what this is about, his legacy. This was a traditional Cibernetico where they had a battle royal that set teams. And then at the end of it, you had the two teams. At the end of it, Sobranario Jr. wound up winning, which was a bit of a surprise to most people. He of the names in this, he's not the one you would think would be someone that they would try and catapult further up the card, which is usually what this tournament will do. He's already in a pretty high up position and doing pretty well. He's crossed over with New Japan and ROH at several points. So I was a little surprised, but pleasantly so, that he got the win. So hopefully this means big things for Sobernario Jr. in CMLL in the near future. And then also the main event that happened after that, you had Volador Jr. Defending his NWA Welterweight Championship against TJP, who brought Jeff Cobb out with him. Volador Jr. was able to successfully defend the title. This is his first title defense since March, which was against Bandito, so he kind of is hauling this out for big names when people show up. So this was kind of a pretty good pay-per-view. Hopefully we get a replay of it at some point in the future, but it was good times. And that's the CMLL updates for this week. As always, if you want more CMLL, there's more news out there. Let me know if you want that. If you want less, let me know too. I'm trying to keep it to the big headlines right now. But there we go. So that's our CMLL for this week.
Thank you, Brendan. Up next, we have NXT. We got 2 weeks of NXT content to go over, so we'll do this pretty quickly. Just some highlights of last week's show. We did see the return of Santos Escobar. He faced Malik Blade. This one, again, I mean, Santos is always fairly arrogant, and sometimes, his opponents are able to kind of take advantage of that and surprise him. But ultimately, we had Santos winning with the Phantom Driver. This match, though, seemed to set up more of a story that sets up for what we saw this week, and I'll explain in a second. So after the match, all of Legado del Fantasma was in the middle of the ring. Elektra Lopez talked pretty much solidifying that whole Zion Quinn story as far as him declining and how he ended up paying for that. And then Legado talking about, taking this opportunity really well. Let me take a step back, because there was several things that happened. So Joaquin Wilde, after Elektra took the mic and said that they are back at full strength as a unit, and from there they are interrupted by Kyle O'Reilly and Von Wagner, and pretty much saying that they are all there for the same reason, for the NXT tag titles. And so there was some back and forth between them until Imperium showed up, Fabian Eichner and Marcel Barthel, and pretty much put it out there. Hey, whoever wants a chance at these titles, come and get it. But in order to do that, they needed to face each other to determine the number one contenders for the NXT tag titles, which I will get to in a minute. But also last week we had Ivy Nile versus Yulisa Leon. We've mentioned her before as one of the newest members of the NXT roster, Mexican, I think, power lifter athlete, and she is the daughter of a luchador, CMLL luchador. I forgot his name because I'm not Dusty and I don't have all these fun notes. But we had a match between Ivy Nile and Yulisa Leon. This match started off very playful, with Leon kind of dodging her attempts at a charge. However, Ivy Nile took her down fairly quickly. Ivy did her own types of playful aspects, like, I don't know, wrapping her legs around Yulisa's head to do some sit-ups, and using Leon's back to do push-ups. Which really displayed Ivy's strength. But Ivy ended up winning that match by locking in a Dragon Sleeper for a submission win. This week in NXT, we saw Yulisa again as she teamed up with Valentina Feroz against Indy Hartwell and Persia Parada. This time, Yulisa and Valentina was able to capitalize on Indy being distracted by Dexter Loomis, who has disappeared. He was in the hospital and now he's gone. So they were able to utilize some really great teamwork to distract Indy. However, Persia stepped in with the tag and was able to win the match with a face buster. So it's good to see Yulisa and Valentina making some strides on NXT, and the fact that they seem, having Yulisa on the show 2 weeks in a row is a good sign, even though she's being used as more of an enhancement role. As we see with NXT 2.0, they are looking to put people in certain places on the roster. With that, though, as I mentioned about the events from the previous week, we did get a number one contenders match between Legado del Fantasma and Kyle O'Reilly and Von Wagner, in which Von Wagner and Kyle O'Reilly won, and they are now the new number one contenders for the NXT tag titles, which is, again, I mean, we've had this conversation plenty of times of Legado trying to be in that number one contendership spot and winning those tag titles. And what does this mean for Legado? I still believe we must protect Legado, because, at any moment, if the company doesn't find that ROI in them, they could be on that chopping block. And they've done such a great job of building themselves up as a group, and really one of the longest standing groups now in NXT, that it would be a shame to see that, go away. But yet again, always a bridesmaid, never a bride with Legado del Fantasma. Not quite their time, if it is ever, to fight for that championship gold and even become tag champions. This was the go home show for War Games. So with that too, last week we did confirm the final member of the women's team, and that is Kaylee Ray. She has been added to Team Gonzalez, so it will be her, Cora Jade, Io Shirai, and Raquel Gonzalez versus Team Kai, Dakota Kai, and Toxic Attraction. We also did get confirmation that the men's Warm Game match is going to be somewhat of a new school versus old school group. We have Team Black and Gold, Tommaso Ciampa, Johnny Gargano, Pete Dunne, and LA Knight versus Team 2.0, Braun Breaker, Carmelo Hayes, Grayson Waller, and Tony D'Angelo. We are going to see Imperium face Kyle O'Reilly and Von Wagner for the NXT Tag Team Championships. A very interesting match, an Apuestas match at War Games in a hair versus hair match. Cameron Grimes versus Duke Hudson, which I'm very surprised in, but I do think that there's been a character shift and change in Cameron Grimes. So I have a feeling his hair is going to go, which is kind of sad because he's cut it to a really nice length. It used to be super long. Now he cut it to shoulder length, and I'm like, okay, I like this. And now we're going to lose it, so I don't know what we're doing here.
That's right. We update you fans on the fashion too. I was paying attention to that myself. I'm with you. I like his hair as it was. But.
I like it is how it is. But, it's a rare to see an Apuestas match in NXT, especially in a event like War Games. So, I have a feeling that will be, the opening match probably. Maybe set the tone, who knows. And we're also going to get Roderick Strong versus Joe Gacy, for the NXT Cruiserweight Championship. So that is going to be, this Sunday, December 5th. Sunday, December 5th. It's going to air on Peacock. It's going to be the first War Games to air on Peacock.
Wow.
Yeah.
Big weekend for wrestling. We've got Regia Saturday and War Games Sunday.
Yep.
On
top of all the weekly stuff that we've talked about as well. So a big weekend for wrestling, but make sure you stay tuned to luchacentral.com. They are going to have results for NXT every week, and I'm fairly certain we'll have the results for War Games. Up next, we're going to shift to additional WWE news. We're going to be talking about Raw and SmackDown, and even a little 205 Live. we're not Dusty. We're not as diligent as he is, but we do got some news. First off, I believe it was last week, not this week, last week, the Mysterios, Rey and Dominic beat Cedric Alexander and Shelton Benjamin. On last week's SmackDown, we had Damian Priest defend the U.S. title against Apollo Crews and successfully retain. And in a little interesting 205 news, Elektra Lopez defeated Valentina Feroz. So again, 205 Live is becoming this additional platform for NXT talent, which, I think is a great way to get people excited about 205 Live. It's great to be able to give those talent another opportunity and platform to be on television. And it could be a great place to see people like Valentina, like Ulissa, like Elektra Lopez, do some great in-ring work when, NXT on a weekly basis is too crowded. But we got to talk about the big news that happened, right before Thanksgiving. And that is Queen Zelina to you, and Carmella winning the women's tag team titles. Brennan, tell me, what were your first thoughts when this actually happened?
Well, I was wondering why we didn't see this on anything like this on Zelina's last run, to be honest. I am super happy we're finally getting that, but they could have been doing this well before they fired her the first time, right? Could have been she's just such a all-over great star. So, yeah, that's where I was at. The salt was flowing, because unfortunately, WWE results usually result in salt for me at this point.
Yes, well, I do think she's in a great place with the Queen Zelina persona. Her as a team with Carmella makes sense. This kind of mean girls mentality. This adds some spice to the women's tag titles, because we hadn't even seen them really defended at all. We hadn't even seen Nikki and Rhea together that much. Nope. So I think at that point, when it's kind of stale, it's time to turn the page and to do something new. So I think it was great to see Zelina and Carmella win the tag titles. And it also brings the rise, to a whole new set of challengers, maybe a new babyface tag team that comes up. Who knows? It does seem like they're moving away from the Nikki-Rhea partnership. And even if, it definitely gives me Michelle McCool and Layla vibes.
Oh, yeah.
Very much that. The same, very similar vibes, but just, a little bit more of a modern touch to it. And still almost just not even just mean girls, but just very just catty, brutal women, which I think fits this team so very well. I think that they play off of each other really, really well. And you can tell to the point where they are now, women's tag team champions. So a big congratulations to them, and hope to see the women's tag division flourish a little bit more, have a little bit more competition now.
It would be nice. They've definitely had the a lot of zero effort. But that's again the salt with a lot of WWE is they have all the talent but zero effort. So. Mm-hmm. At any time, you can see anything that's your favorite thing explode into awesomeness, which is why we optimistically keep tuning. Well, why we optimistically make Dusty tune in. Let's be honest here. That's
he got the short end of that stick, because as you could tell, we don't really watch a whole lot of WWE. It just isn't, I don't have cable, so I don't watch USA. So trust me, it was a little heartbreaking when Finn Balor moved from SmackDown to Raw, because now they're going to make me watch. You have to pay to watch Finn Balor? Is that really what I have to do, with all these, roster shifts? But, there's some good highlights. There's some silver linings, and one of those is absolutely Zelina and Carmella winning the tag titles. But, if you miss any WWE action, you can find the results on luchacentral.com. So make sure you check them out if you want to know what you missed this week, last week, heck, even the week before. We got you covered on luchacentral.com. We're going to finish up this week, well, kind of like what we do every week, and that is with Impact Wrestling. Over the Thanksgiving episode, we did get a Thanksgiving special with the return of Wrestle House 2 Thanksgiving special. Decay used their dark magic to teleport Johnny Bravo, Hernandez, Madison Rain, Alicia, Johnny Swinger, the Swingerellas to Wrestle House for this special edition of Impact Wrestling. And so this episode was, again, it's very much like a Big Brother type of vibe in Wrestle House, but a little bit
dark magic.
Only with dark magic. It's totally cool. I just gotta give a heads up. So if you saw the matches, you'll know that they did this in a different format. If any of you recognize the arena that they filmed that's in, that is the FSW Arena in Las Vegas. So a special shout out to Future Stars of Wrestling to have their facility featured on this Thanksgiving episode. But you know what? There was some interesting lucha adjacent content on this show. We had the team of Decay, which is Taurus, Crazy Steve, Havoc, and Rosemary, with Chris Sabin defeat the Influence, which is Caleb and Madison Rain, Eddie Edwards, Alicia Edwards, and Hernandez. And then we also did later on have a one-on-one match with Black Taurus versus Hernandez, in which Black Taurus won. And just the crazy adventures of Wrestle House. Definitely check it out. One of the things I do love about Impact Wrestling is a little, how meta they are. They understand their ridiculousness. They know that they, are just a bit ridiculous. But hey, I think that makes it all the better. That's what makes it,
There's
just
a fine
something.
line.
Yes.
They managed to stay on the right side of that fine line, in my opinion. Yeah.
Yes. And so also we got the return of Downtown Daddy Brown in Willie Mack. He defeated Johnny Swinger. And, someone like Willie Mack, who is such a chameleon, and you don't even know it sometimes, where he can do comedy, he can do serious matches, he can do lucha, he can do American. I mean, he is just someone who's such a fun person to watch and such a chameleon. So I just think that this episode in particular is a great way to break up the monotony of things and again acknowledge kind of what makes Impact. And they make fun of themselves and their history. And it's part of a bigger storyline of the last Wrestle House was Johnny Bravo, was about to get married to Rosemary. He got, that happened after. So actually Wrestle House set that up where they fell in quote unquote love in Wrestle House and then got married afterward. But I mean, Taya was a big part of the first Wrestle House. I would love to see her make her return at Wrestle House. That would just be such a funny thing to do. She left shortly after Wrestle House. She was revealed as the person who shot Johnny Bravo, and was taken away to maximum level penitentiary. And so having her return would be such a fun thing for Impact. But who knows? I'm just doing my fantasy booking here. But that was the Thanksgiving edition of Impact. They returned tonight for their regular show, and they had a few interesting matches on there to make note of. One was the debut of Jonah against a man that you talked about a little bit earlier in talking about the Boyle Heights wrestling show, Jay Vidal. Poor Jay. If you know Jonah, he made his debut at, I believe, Bound for Glory. And so, no, not Bound for Glory. Oh my gosh. I think it was the pay-per-view right after that. But Jay Vidal is a cruiserweight in more of his style compared to Jonah. So Jonah got the win there in his first Impact Wrestling Weekly match. And then we also got, as I'm going through the results, we did get Violent by Design versus Rich Swann and Willie Mack. This match they've been doing kind of over and over and over again. Rich Swann and Willie Mack won. They were facing Diener and Joe Doring. I am not sure where they're going with this, to be honest. After the match, Violent by Design beat up Rich Swann and Willie Mack. They were saved by Rhino and, Rhino and Heath.
Tonight's show brought to you by Forgotten Names.
Yes.
That's our theme.
To be fair, this just happened as we are recording. So.
Oh no, we're both doing it. I'm just calling attention to the fact that we both just are awful on names tonight. I do apologize, folks. We both do take our notes. Dusty's not the only one that's this diligent. It's just there's a lot, and sometimes the brain.
Yes, and you call me out. I'm not up to date on my AEW and WWE's. That's why we divide and conquer here. Even though I can't believe not that I can't believe I forgot Adam Page's name, because I kept thinking the thing that kept coming up in my head was cowboy shit. Who does cowboy shit? Cowboy shit.
Right. And that's it's a fun thing about his branding, because I was once you got stuck in that, I couldn't think of his name either until
cowboy shit. So but also I do love Impact. I advocate for them highly, but having Violent by Design versus Rich Swann and Willie Mack again, what are you leading to? What are you leaning to? What are we doing here with this? Please tell me. What are we doing here?
I can't tell you. I have not been up enough on the product to have an idea of what their storyline is, and they're usually so far in the creative direction that it's harder for me to predict anyway.
Yes.
They're not doing old school wrestling booking. They're doing new creative stuff.
Which is different. Impact to Impact. But I mentioned Black Taurus through the Impact review, and he will be one of the wrestlers also at Expo Lucha this June.
Yeah.
So again,
his experience at Lucha House. I'm looking forward to it.
Wrestle House. That would be a cool one too.
Right.
But yeah, Wrestle House. We could ask.
I just made a thing.
You just made a thing. Copyright, own it, sell it. As well as I talked about earlier in the show with MLW, with Audis, he will be part of Expo Lucha as well. So, it feels like every week that we talk about someone, there's always a way to tie that back to Expo Lucha. We have a feeling that as more talents are being announced, there will be more tie-ins to things in the show. So make sure you stay tuned to. Go ahead.
Definitely stay tuned. As I was trolling Twitter during the recording of this, they said we're going to get more match announcements coming soon. Yes. So next week's show will have the match announcements for you for sure.
Yes. So make sure that you stay tuned to our show. And thank you so much for listening. That's it for this week. We all made it. We did it without Dusty, which makes me a little sad, because the show is definitely not the same without him. But we hope he is recovering and he's resting and will be back with us next week, along with all of you listening to the Lucha Central Weekly podcast. Please make sure you check out luchacentral.com, your centralized place for all things Lucha Libre, as well as Lucha Central on social media. At Lucha Central on Facebook and Instagram, and at luchacentral.com on Twitter. You gotta check out the YouTube page that has hours upon hours of exclusive content that you're not gonna find anywhere else. And while you're at it, why don't you go ahead and follow us on social media? Brendan, can you let our listeners know where they can find you?
Absolutely. I am 321 T-shirt guy. That's the numbers. 321. T-shirt guy is all spelled out, and I am on Instagram. I am on Facebook, and I'm all over the Twitters.
Yes. And don't forget our friend Dusty Murphy. You can follow him at Dusty Murphy on the socials, on Instagram and on Facebook. Me, myself, Miranda Morales, you can find me at the hashtag Miranda on Instagram and Facebook as well. Pretty sure Dusty's on Twitter. I think his handle is Dusty Murphy.
He's never come out and said he's on Twitter, but he keeps talking about seeing tweets, so.
Maybe he's just like me, and he's just like low key. Not that I'm on Twitter, because I'm not, but also like a Twitter stalker, because I do that. So maybe I'll have to.
It's just hard to resist sometimes. And again, yes. I stress this all the time. Wrestling Twitter, for the most part, can be a very positive place. It does go to the negative quite a bit that Twitter is prone towards doing, but generally, the wrestlers on Twitter and the wrestling community on Twitter is about being nice and uplifting. So if you are terrified of Twitter because it's normally a toxic place, come check out wrestling Twitter. It might be better than you think.
I'm not going to hold my breath on that. I'm going to hard pass on that. I also want to take this opportunity to thank our one of our distributing partners, thechairshot.com. If you are listening to this through thechairshot.com, thank you so much. Also, do not forget to check out thechairshot.com, your place for wrestling news, analysis, sports entertainment. And a big shout out to them and all the content that they produce, but also for having us as part of their podcast network as well. Reach out to us again on social medias. If you are listening to this on your favorite podcast streaming platform like Spotify, Podbay, iTunes, Google Play, and much, much more, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. Subscribe, and that way you get a notification every time a new episode of the Lucha Central Weekly podcast drops. Leave us a 5-star rating and a review. Let us know what you think about the show, things you'd like change, things you'd like for us to talk about, not talk about, whatever it may be. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you think on either the review portion of however you're listening to it, or through us directly on social media. Thank you all again so much for listening. We will be back with you next week. So for Brendan Barr, I'm Miranda Morales. Thank you all so much.